We're,
Nice.
I stay on this meeting, you consent being sent to a third party. Got it. Okay. Okay, for those of you on Facebook, please comment that you see us. As of April 22nd, my wonderful Rose VA, who basically is my arms and legs, who keeps me sane and does everything for me, she did some research, and Facebook is getting too big. They're preparing for their own demise, which is unfortunate. So all the more reason for me to continue to build out my own community on Buddy Boss, because Facebook is now not allowing you to use a third-party video streaming service to go live on Facebook. So we're on my timeline, and we'll have another alternative by next week. So my VA Rose should be posting in the group, which this is weird because you won't be seeing this until you're already over here. So it's a moot point, but let me look and see. Let me let Rose know. Okay, Rose, we're on my timeline live. Please let everyone know. And please check to see if you see us. Okay. Hey, that's what being a real estate investor and an entrepreneur is all about. You troubleshoot. Grace under pressure. So I'm going to take a peek here and see if I see us on my timeline.
I do. I just joined.
I do. Yay, we're here. All right. Okay, we're there. Okay, disaster averted.
Sweet.
Yay. Okay, everyone. So, hey, we're troubleshooting things as we go. My pal Winston Widdes. Winston and I worked at Mind Protein for Fortune Builders many years ago. If you don't know Winston, you are really lucky to meet him today. He is one of the nicest guys in the world, and he's super creative, very entrepreneurial, just a cool guy. And we're going to have some fun today. And I'm sorry for the delay and having you guys have to chase us down. We're on my timeline. We're going to post the video of this in the Unstoppable Real Estate Investor group for those of you who follow us every week. For those of you who don't, the rest of you who are not even real estate investors, oh, well, you're getting to see my weekly podcast whether you want to or not. Okay, without further ado, Winston Widdes, buddy, yay, it's all about you. Why don't we just jump in and talk about, a little about what you were doing before real estate, so to get a sense of your creativity and your entrepreneurial spirit, and then how you got into real estate many years ago.
All right. Well, first, thanks so much, Rayan, for having me on your show. It's really a blessing and a privilege. I'm super stoked. So it's been a long time, and yeah, we had a lot of fun working together for many years. So it's good to see you again for sure. And so yeah, I've been in real estate for a long time. I grew up around construction. My dad, my grandpa, my uncle, they were all in construction. So I grew up around that, but I learned, I'm not big into the building side myself personally. And when I was in high school, I was very much into music. Growing up, I played instruments, piano, a little bit guitar, and then saxophone became my main instrument. And so when I was in high school, I was in band, and we had a band instructor that really changed my life for the better. So I felt really inspired to become a music teacher. So that was my big goal. Graduating high school was like, I'm going to go and get my degree in music so I can be a music teacher. And I started working when I graduated. Started working for a gentleman in Ocean Beach, California. I lived in San Diego at the time, and he was flipping houses. And I really wanted to be successful in real estate. I've always wanted to own passive income and be financially free. And before I before I graduated high school, when I was talking with my grandfather one day, the one who was founder of Widdes Construction in Los Angeles and ran that for many years. That was the family business. He said, you can't enjoy the kind of lifestyle that you've grown up with as a music teacher. You just won't make enough money. And so that was very discouraging, of course, but it's also like, shush, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm going to still do what I want to do. But it's, I listened to him because he was very successful in what he did. And I did enjoy the lifestyle from what him and my grandma and my dad and them all did. So I took that to heart. And I realized like, hey, I want to do music. I want to be free to do whatever I want to do. And real estate is a tried and true path to get there. So I knew that from a pretty young age. And when
I
I
want to
started,
say that this
yeah,
a new piece of your history. Until I read your bio before, and you sharing this about the Widdes construction, I didn't know that part of your history. I knew you about being a real estate agent. So, and yet that's funny that you grew up in that and you're still like, no, I'm not the guy that swings the hammer. Nope, that's not my jam.
it's not my jam. It's not my jam. And actually, that's funny you even use that term because search is my jam.
Searches.
I did, yeah, and I'll get to that part too. But yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, so I grew up around construction, and even when I got out of high school, I started working for a buddy who he was just doing handyman, odd job type stuff, and would invite me along so I could get some work while I was in community college studying music. And he ended up getting work with this one guy named Rich, who was in Ocean Beach. And he's like, oh, you got to come meet this guy. He's crazy, but he's really cool and smart. And like, he's got a lot of work. I was like, all right, sweet. So we started working for this guy, Rich. And,
This was in San Diego, right?
this isn't
Ocean
San
Beach.
Diego, stereotypical Southern California surfer dude, but he's flipping houses and he's using credit cards to like buy all the materials. And so it was just like, it was Wild West crazy. He just did everything by the seat of his pants, and it wasn't like, it was like
That
systems.
balances out all the people that are terrified to take any action and just are the workshop willies and the boot camp Bettys, and they just learn, and never do anything. And then on the other extreme is chaos and careless, and let me just dive into the deep end of the pool and hope I learn how to swim before I sink to the bottom. Somewhere in the middle is a nice balance. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and so he wasn't like reckless. So I want to put that out there. Like he had a plan, and it was just
But
very.
he had a high tolerance to risk.
Yes, and he was scrappy, super scrappy. So like nothing couldn't be done, and that was
He would
definitely
find a way.
he would find a way,
Yeah.
and he would have us implement it. So he was good at delegating to us, but he's also good at getting his hands dirty. And so me and my friend, we were like, just the guys doing the manual labor, and he was there too. But it was really fun. We worked 70, 80 hours a week, just swinging hammers and tearing roofs off, putting new roofs on, tearing flooring out, putting in new flooring. So we did everything from the top to the bottom. So it was a great experience because it's like, oh, this is how you flip houses. And, and he did it. And I helped him do maybe 8 to 10, maybe 12.
All right, so you did swing the hammer. It's just
I did.
not you did it enough to know this isn't where I want to live.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So like when I was young, I did want to be in construction because that was the family business. I thought it was cool. And then as I got older and I put in the time and work doing manual labor and construction and all that for about a year, I was like, okay, I can do this. It's not my favorite thing to do. It's not probably the highest best use of my skills, although I do want to flip houses and still be in real estate. When I graduate, he actually was a UC Berkeley graduate, and he was the one day at lunch, he's just like, Winston, you got to get the best education you can. You got to go to the best school you can. Cause I was still at community college, kind of like getting lost in the mix of requirements for moving to the next college. The paperwork, that kind of stuff is definitely not one of my skills. And so when he said that though, I was like, man, I could go to UC Berkeley. I could go to a 4-year college. Like, nobody in my family went to college. It was never a big deal. It was like, you got to do something real. Like college isn't going to teach you important things, was kind of like my family's, general take on it. And so when he said that though, I was like, man, this would be great. And I met Elena, my wife, in community college. and she's the one that helped me get out of community college. And I got into UC Berkeley after his push. I worked really hard, got all my grades up, and did a really good application, and I got accepted and got in. And so I went up there for a couple of years, got my degree in music. And
Berkeley College, what was that experience like being at Berkeley? Like, I mean, the Bay Area is just so crazy crowded and expensive now.
yeah.
But even then, I still like, if I could live there, I would. Not now, but I bet back then it was still awesome, right?
I thought so. I mean, I was like 22, 21, 22 at the time. And so, yeah, for me, it was just like, it was really awesome. A lot of, very cool people, very smart people that all are there to study whatever thing they're there to study. And, lots of great music and
Aware, awake, activist, peace, love, and happiness. Yeah.
but there was all of that, and
Really
the
smart people.
that that and very like conservative traditional people, and it was like a weird juxtaposition that I didn't really anticipate. And so it was interesting. Yeah, I saw all sides of things, and it was a lot of fun for sure. It was a lot of fun. Good times. Very
Okay.
expensive,
I
as you
love
said.
your
Yes.
background. We haven't even gotten to the reason we're here yet. This
All
is
right.
so fun. Keep going. Keep
Thanks.
telling your
Thanks.
story.
All right. All right. So I graduated from college. I had been DJing. I got into DJing in about
Oh, I remember that.
1999.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had been in bands up until then, and we went our separate ways, creative differences, and girls got in the mix, and girls and bands, just boom, exploded. So I went off on my own, became a DJ, solo musician and DJ. And so when I got out of college, I was like, okay, now I want to be a music teacher. How do I do this? And so I just started getting private music students. I started getting DJ gigs on the weekend, and then shortly thereafter, I got my real estate license. I was like, I don't want to do construction. I want to teach music. I want to perform music, and I want to be in real estate. And getting my license was the best way that I saw for me to do that. So I got licensed in 2005. And then within a couple of years, I became a top producing agent in Century 21, which was a big franchise at the time, 21 Award. And so I did that for a number of years until it, exploded, the 2008, crash. Got back into music full time and did that for I basically always had music going, and then I had marketing, either marketing or or real estate of some kind. And so I did that for a lot of years.
Say something of a flashback of a memory when
Yeah.
working at Mind Protein. You were still doing DJing as a sidekick. I mean, I think when we were working together, you eventually worked out of that and you went back into the real estate more. But
Mm-hmm.
I remember you doing a gig at a house in PB that was
Yeah.
at the end of this cul-de-sac that they had over gold plated it and turned it into a mini castle.
Yes.
Remember that one?
Oh,
It
yeah. That was
looked
a
like
long.
a castle and it was so out of place in the neighborhood, but it was
Yes.
really cool. It was,
Super cool. That was a longtime client of mine.
yeah.
That was one of the beautiful things about when I went back into music full time after I had been, one of my goals when I got into being an agent became like, hey, I want to be able to do this full time. I want to be a full time real estate agent. And I got to that point. But then when the market was crashing or about to crash, I got up right before it crashed. And I took a lot of what I learned from real estate back into my music business. And that was one of the things that really helped me build a music business for myself, was like certain things about like building relationships, staying in contact with my marketing systems, and being able to get referrals. And so my music business, that client that you're referring to, PB Millionaire in the PB reality show, he became a longtime client of mine. I did sometimes 2-3 gigs a year for him for many years. So yeah, that was good times.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Okay, so keep going.
Okay. So I did that, and then we had my wife and I had our first son, and that was of course, amazing. It was also, I had one of my biggest DJ gigs, this big wedding the next morning. So I didn't sleep at all because Bradley wasn't born until like 3 in the morning. So I was up all night. And then, barely got any sleep, drove and did this wedding all day, the whole next day on no sleep. But it, I did that for a couple of years, and then when he got a little bit older and I got a little bit closer to having a second son, that's when I was like, I'm getting kind of old for all this running around business, and I had private music students all over the county. I had schools I was teaching at all over the county. I had the real estate, which was all over the county, and San Diego County, as you well know, is a
Jack of
big
all
county.
trades, master of none, and growing a family. It's like, okay, time to start adulting.
Kind of, yeah, it was
Yeah.
kind of it. Like, yeah, I've been partying for 15, 20 years, and that was the dream. It was like, how can I get paid to party and play music? And I did that for many years. And that castle party
Then you
was,
outgrew it. Yeah.
I did. I really did. I was glad I got it out. I was glad I had that opportunity and made that a reality for sure. But it's like, okay, I got
Yeah,
kids
because you have
now.
no regrets or remorse, like, oh, that dream, I wish I had done that. You did it,
Yes.
you got it out of your system, and
Yes.
now it's moving on to, okay, now this is what I really want to do. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, exactly. It just kind of shifted, and it's like, oh, maybe I'm maturing or whatever. But yeah, and I wanted to be able to have like a stable 9 to 5 kind of job where it's like at the end of the day I'm done, and I don't just have to keep like spinning more circles or like go do this gig or go teach those kids or whatever. And so that's when it occurred to me that gosh, I could go back into marketing, and I could go into just like have clients and, have an agency. And so that's what I started doing. And when I was online, I was starting to do some prospecting for marketing clients, and I saw this ad, and it's like, hey, are you an internet marketing guru? And I was like, well, I don't know about all that, but okay, maybe I'm good enough to be an internet marketing guru. It's like, do you like real estate? It's like, heck yeah, I do. Do you like teaching? Heck yeah, I do. All right. It's like, well, why don't you come apply for this job at Mind Protein and be this?
Mind protein. I thought that was the coolest name, like mind protein. And I found that opportunity on LinkedIn.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Actually, it
Yes.
just was an email from LinkedIn that showed up in my inbox. I wasn't even like
Wow.
I wasn't even looking, and I read the ad and went, wow, that that's something I could do. That's something like I had different qualifications than you.
Yeah.
Our team was pretty eclectic
Yeah.
that we had at one point. Like
Yeah.
came in and was really on the social media, and then you and me more copywriting and coaching. But yeah, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
how long were you there total? I was at Mind Protein for about a year and a quarter before I moved over to the business coaching, but I was at Fortune Builders for a total of 5 years.
I think I was there about 5.5 years.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So then we did the Mind Protein Fortune Builders thing,
Mm-hmm.
and post apocalyptic pandemic. And then you left San Diego and you guys moved to Texas, bought a house, living happily ever after.
Yeah.
Kids, dogs, cats,
Chickens.
chickens, everybody's
Yeah.
there, and your wife's working again. So now
Yes.
tell us what you're doing now with real estate.
So now I have been very, very fortunate to find a company that is so after the whole experience with my protein, I just really it just reaffirmed for me that I really like marketing, internet marketing and real estate. Obviously I still love music. I still do music and all that.
But it's
I've
for
got a
fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it's for me and it's for fun. Like I'm not trying to go out there and, just do do gigs anymore, do
Go on The
teaching.
Voice and become some famous. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not the angle there. So I found this great company that is in the real estate space, and this company's actually been around for 30 years doing real estate technology. So websites, CRMs, it's an all-in-one technology stack for brokers primarily. It's been for like some of the biggest brokers in the US. And when I started interviewing with them, I was like, man, this is really cool. You know, I don't think I've ever heard of these guys. Maybe I have, maybe I haven't. Their name didn't like jump out at me, but what they were doing was just like it resonated with me and what I really wanted to do. Back to the mug here. So, you know, I've had so many. So search is my jam. This is given to me by some great folks, and what it was I really wanted to get into, because you know one of the things that was great about Mind Protein was we got to help so many people, right? Like, so we're on the phone, we're just like
Rick
consulting them.
Howell was one of my first students
Wow.
at Mind Protein, and he was my guest on the podcast last week. And he's
Nice.
built a whole family business. And like
Wow.
he's got his real estate license, but he's also investing. He's helping his sister and his son develop financial freedom, building generational wealth. So I just love that.
That's
Keep going.
amazing. Yeah, and you know, it's such a great experience. I got to just work with so many fantastic entrepreneurs and business owners, and you know, I really enjoyed that. And one of the things that I always felt like, oh gosh, I you know, being a very hands-on person and wanting to do a lot of things, and having been solo for so many years where I was the one spinning all the plates and all that, I really wanted to get my hands dirty with paid ads. That was something that, you know, we couldn't really help folks with other than like, okay, here's how to do it. Here's some training. Now go do it. You know, we couldn't ever do it for them. And that was something I really wanted to get good at, because I've done it in the past, but it was always like increments. It's like, okay, we're going to do $1,000 here, $1,000
Yeah, and
there.
you really need to know what you're doing. I had invested last year in a program. Robbie uh Abuela, something like that. He does this program called Scaling with Systems, and he teaches the guys built several 8-figure businesses, always around marketing and internet stuff. And he has this whole course that teaches you basically how to do Facebook ads.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's complicated. There's a lot of little, it's tedious.
Yes,
You've really gotta know what you're doing. I
absolutely.
yeah, I had a coach that was helping me, navigate it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was exactly like it was something that I'd done enough to kind of sort of get it. And like conceptually, of course, it's pretty easy to understand. All right, I want to do advertising on Facebook, I want to do advertising on Google, but to get into the back end and make it all work, super tedious and very challenging. And the big challenge for me too was like having an ecom business as my kind of back end, you know, passion project, if you will, was like, how do I run
You've
enough?
always had a back end internet marketing related passion project. I remember when we were at Mind Protein, whenever you had free time, you were tinkering and creating in your little creativity cave, like look, figuring something else out. That's always been your jam.
That is true.
Yeah.
Yes, this is very true. So I'm still doing that, still you know, scaling that in the back, because you know, I don't like to sleep and I like to stay up and work on this kind of stuff. And so but the paid thing was challenging, because it's like, because I'd either have to use my own money, which is like, okay, that's at some point it's fine, but the other thing is like then scaling it, the fulfillment, right? Because it's like getting the leads is one thing, working the leads is another thing, fulfilling on whatever service was bought or sold or product was, you know, sold, fulfillment is a whole thing. So with the ecom, on the one hand, if it's just digital products, that's pretty easy to fulfill. But the whole scaling thing, I wanted to get really good at spending a lot of money on paid ads. And I realized like the only way I'm going to get really good at this is if I'm doing it every day as a job, and using other people's money and having the leverage to spend a lot of money. And so I was really focused on getting a job as a paid media specialist, and that's what I ended up doing for this company I work for now. And again, they were working with a lot of brokers, honestly, I hadn't heard of, just growing up on the West Coast.
So this job enabled you to marry your two passions.
yeah, I was able to just jump right in and be the paid media specialist. I got, some Google certifications and a bunch of training, and I've certainly invested in a lot of training programs over the years with the paid ad stuff. And then over the last, I worked that position about a year and a half and managed over a couple $100,000 in ad spend on Google, and then not quite as much on Facebook, but so I got a lot of experience in those. And like you said earlier, it's very tedious. And I was doing a fine job and it was great. And I got to the point where I felt very competent, but I also got to the point where it's like, man, I am not a detail oriented person. I am not good with the
Yeah,
tedious
I
kind
am
of things.
definitely delegate to elevate on shit like that. Like I need to know I'm logical and I need to understand it and know what's going on, but I don't want to do it. I love
Hmm.
delegating to my VAs.
Yeah,
Go
you're
do this.
always
Thank
been
you.
good at that.
Yeah, keep going.
Yeah.
Now
So.
tie this into where you're at with real estate, since that's what the podcast is. I know
Mm-hmm.
you like the internet marketing. Are you an active agent? Are you investing? Talk about like where you're at with real estate.
Yeah, so with real estate, so I actually let my license go just maybe 6 months ago. I've been in Texas now for over 2 years, and so I had my California license for about 17 years, and it just was getting expensive, and I got to the point maybe about a year ago where I realized, I'm not going back anytime soon. Our kids have roots here now in the school districts, and they'll be able to grow up all the way up through high school and even maybe community college and college out here. So I made the decision to let my real estate license go. So I'm not licensed, but that's okay. I still have some real estate, 6 units in Pittsburgh and Pennsylvania, and then
Did you get
with
those through Brian and
I did.
his team?
And then with my mother-in-law, she moved out here as well, and she's getting older, and she's done very well for herself, and she's got a lot of property still in San Diego. And I've actually been helping her. I helped her do a 1031 transaction to get a lake house out here that we are Airbnb-ing, and helping her manage her other Airbnb in Branson. So that's actually taken up a fair amount of time of helping, well, the transaction itself, so acting as an agent but not actually being an agent. And
What
then
do you do with your Joshua Tree property? We had talked about, what was that, about a year or two ago?
yeah.
We discussed different ideas. Do you still
Hmm.
own that what was it, about 5 acres or something?
Yep, 5 acres out there, still own it. And I actually had brought a friend of mine who lives out in San Diego onto my plan. I've had a couple of different plans I really like, but with a lot of the stuff I've been dealing with here, like this lake property and the Branson property and the Airbnbs, they've just been very time consuming. And so that project, my friend who I brought in on it has been very gun ho and like, hey, we could do this. It's like, cool it. Like, I'm pretty spread thin right now. I've considered selling it just to free up cash and to move on. Part of the fun of that project too was that I lived a couple hours away, so it's like, oh, I want to be able to go to Joshua Tree and hang out and camp
I
and all
can just
that.
camp in the middle of my property whenever I want, right?
Exactly. So right now it's on a camping site called Hip Camp, and so we still get people going out there to camp, and covers the taxes and whatnot. But it's there, and it's got lots of opportunities, and a lot of things I would like to do with it, but at the moment, just it's not the main project.
Yeah. So what would you say your biggest challenges have been with regard to real estate?
Biggest challenges is so I'm not, like I mentioned, I'm not a detail oriented person. So things that are like with the 6 units, for example, there's a lot of paperwork, and with managing like taxes, it's been tax season, right? So like getting all the paperwork together, making sure I've got all the details. It's like, oh gosh, thank goodness I have Elena. She's my main teammate in all this, and so without her I wouldn't get anything done on time. None of the, she's got the tax person coordinated and all these things. So that part for me personally, very difficult. That's why I tend to stay you know, on the marketing and tech side and sales side of it all. And that part's kind of high level, and I can just talk to people and help them with their problems. And that's kind of how I ended up in where I'm at.
Now, what are your plans as far as from a real estate investment point of view going forward?
Well, at this point, you know, if you'd asked me that like, I don't know, 5, 10 years ago, I would have said, okay, just get more passive income real estate. You know, that was my big goal for many years, just get a lot more until it's enough to cover all my expenses and I'm financially free. And that was kind of like it, right? Now we're at the point where it's like, okay, again with my mother-in-law, because she is such a part of our lives, it's really become like she's getting older, you know, and she's tired and she doesn't want to manage this. And even though she has property managers, they require management because with this 1031 deal we just did, you know, all these issues start coming up with managing property managers out of state. And okay, this place is totally wrecked. Now we got to bring a cleaning crew in. Now we got to do this. Oh, the property manager messed this contract up. And now, you know, it's like there's just so many things. So we kind of manage the managers is really like where we're at
Yeah,
with
and
our
will you guys
business.
inherit her portfolio when?
So yeah, so we
So
will.
you don't
And
really have to grind away because you're going to inherit a portfolio. You're already managing it. How do you and Alana like the management part of things?
well, she's good at it. I have done it in the past and I
Don't
can
like
do
it.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
I'm
it's
not that guy.
not your jam.
It's not my jam. You got it. Yeah. And you know, she's been saying for years, well, we're gonna inherit this. So why are you working so hard to get more properties? And it's like, you know, honestly, there was always that part of me. It's like, well, you're getting those properties. They're your mom's. They're coming to you. Like, I still want to do this on my own. Right. And I got to a point in life where it's kind of like, you know, that's kind of an ego thing. Like, really, like at the end of the day, we've been married for 20 years now, you know, it's like, okay, what's hers is mine, what's mine is hers. Like we've always shared all this stuff. So why is there still that part of me like, oh, I gotta go get more properties? It's like, dude, we're busy enough. Like just helping her manage her stuff. It's like, yeah, it's not a full-time job, thankfully, but it's work. And to come to that honest level with myself is like, yeah, again, maybe I'm maturing or getting older, but it's like I don't need to keep piling on more things for me to do at this stage of my life. And
Sure.
I can help other people that are wherever they are in their business with the consulting and you know, with the technology I do during the day with the CRMs and you know, this and that. And like
You're still
that's
working for that company?
yes, so that is my full time. So one of the other big mind shifts I had with my protein was, you know, like I said, I was trying to get my marketing agency up and running and get more clients. And when I saw the ad for Mind Protein, you know, I had this shift, and it was right after, you know, a Shark Tank, the Barbara Corcoran, she had said this quote where it's like, entrepreneurs are the only people who will work 80 hours a week to avoid working a 40-hour job, right? And it's like, and I was like, yeah. And it used to be like, yeah, that's me, because I'll work 80 hours a week. And I did that for decades. And it went, but when she said it that time, it hit me different. It's like, I'm too old for this. Like I'm still happy to work those hours, but I don't want to do it the way I've been doing it. And that's when I saw that ad for Mind Protein. It's like, you know, I could get 100 clients each paying me, you know, $100, and you know, I'd be okay. But or I could get one big client that buys a block of my time, 40 hours a week of my time, and pays me enough where like everything is good, like all my expenses are covered and more. And like, and I can still work in the evenings if I want to work that 80-hour week and, you know, and build on top of that. But that was another like maybe getting out of my own way or getting out of pride or ego or whatever to just be like, heck yeah, this is an amazing opportunity. And and so that's one that
And
stuck
you're
with me. And
getting
so
to
yeah,
do work that you love doing because that's your passion.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I absolutely loved it. I got to sit on the phone all day in the office with all y'all and, you know, drink coffee and tea all day and talk to real
But
estate
right
investors.
now, fast forward,
Hmm.
you're doing something similar. Now,
So
talk about the focus of a program that you've created that's your baby, separate from this company, about, because you were just bringing that to market the last time
Ah,
on the
yes,
podcast.
that's
Talk
right.
about this program, Pitch Time, uh,
Okay.
about how you've created a system that brings realtors and investors together that is mutually beneficial. It's a unique niche. So go ahead and talk about that, the name of the program and how it works.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So one of the things that came out of all that time at Mind Protein, and even before then, was I knew I wanted to get into owning real estate, and I wanted to get into work. When I was an agent, I wanted to work with investors, but I felt intimidated and I didn't know how. And I, over the years, as I got more confident and learned more about investing and met more investors, and then when I got back into real estate, I started working with an investor who, the model that I had in mind during all those years I had been trying to develop, was basically like a structure that allowed me to work with investors specifically in a certain way, and it ended up working beautifully. When I finally got tested with a real investor, it worked great. And then the experience with Mind Protein, talking to so many investors that had a lot of misconceptions and misunderstandings about how to work with agents, I realized the disconnect. It's like, oh man, because I would have the same conversations over and over and over with all these investors. And so I basically created a program called How to Work with Agents. And that's the name of the program. You're on mute, Rihanna.
You had a dog barking in the back.
I heard. I know you still
Yeah.
got your dogs. Nice.
So a name that actually says what it is. So yeah, keep going.
Yes. So, How to Work with Investors, and it's a book and a video training program to help educate investors on how to work with agents. And then I did the flip side. I did the other version for agents, how to work with investors. So that way, you can see both perspectives, and then how to work together is the third part of the
Yeah,
book.
that's valuable because there are, and I've been guilty of this, like, you know, just taking agents for granted unless they're like a rock star. Because a lot, they're just like with contractors, can you trust contractors? Or like agents, they want to do the bare minimum but get thousands of dollars in commissions. So it's, I think that is something that's needed, especially with agents commissions under scrutiny,
Mhm.
because of, it was Minnesota or Michigan or one of those Midwestern states where that lawsuit happened that everybody's all worried about. I'm like, why? I mean, so what? So I think a program like this is important because agents are always annoyed if I've done a on market wholesale program where you do I called it agent outreach, but it was on market, because agent outreach, there's, three different ways you can do wholesaling. It can be off market, on market, and agent outreach. I was coaching a couple of guys at Start Virtual that had built a $1 million business, not doing any lead gen,
Mm.
none of wholesaling.
Wow.
What they did is they spent their time building up, they had their buyers list, but they built up their realtor list, and they had a strategy for building relationships with realtors, and realtors supplied all these pocket listings. They never did
Yep.
an insertion. That was a $1 million a year
Mhm.
business with a lean, mean team. And they wanted to double that again this year. And so I think investors see a lot of times realtors as getting in the way, or, someone they have to deal with. And I think agents look at investors like, oh, here we go, lowballer. And if they came together and understood the opportunities, it's really great when you have someone who's predominantly an agent, but they're an investor, that's the perfect combination. Because when investors are agents, it's a self-serving motive. But when you have someone who's predominantly an agent who is an investor, the mindset of that person, man, what they can do to bridge that gap. So talk about the benefits to agents for this program, the benefits to investors of this program. Speak to your two ideal client avatars right now.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that. So for an ideal agent, the ideal agent who is willing to learn, for one, because it's something that oh, okay, I could just work with agents. It's like, or investors. And it's like, yeah, you could try, but they're, as you know, it's like agents are a dime a dozen.
Thank you for
Investors,
interrupting.
yeah.
In the feed on Facebook, Roger Valdez is watching us. He said,
Nice. What up,
"Woohoo, two
Roger?
amazing people right here. Miss you guys. We miss you too, Roger.
Likewise, buddy.
Right on." Okay, keep going.
Very cool. Yeah, ideal agent is the agent that wants that edge in a very specific niche and is willing to invest the time and energy and money to learn it and get good at it and build those relationships and use the tools to understand and use the content to understand the mindset. Because like you were kind of saying, the real estate investor that becomes the agent is in a very self-serving kind of mentality and reason and utility, and
Yeah, I'm
that's
just
there's
an agent, so I don't have to pay commissions.
exactly
Because I
right.
have more access and I can just bypass that altogether. Yeah,
Right.
that's a good strategy. There's nothing wrong with that.
Exactly. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. It works if you work it, right? Like so many things. And so for the ideal investor that is looking to work with agents, my thing when, because on those calls, when just working with so many investors, there's often that question, well, what do you think? Should I get my real estate license? And I would always be very honest with them. It's like, well, and as an agent, when I was new, one thing that Century 21, because I had success very early and I was very young at the time, I was like fresh out of college, they would, invite me to speak to these groups of people who were considering getting into business. Like, hey, will you come speak to these people? They want to get their license and maybe go with Century 21, and we want you to talk to them. So I would do these things and realize like so many people had these, dollar signs in their eyes, like, oh my gosh, this guy's like, I looked like I was 15 and, they're just like, this guy made how much money? Oh my gosh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get into business and it's going to be amazing. And I realized like they didn't hear the first 30 minutes of my little speech where I talked about all the work I did. Like nobody heard any of that. All they heard was the check that I got at the end. And I realized like that's also what happens with a lot of investors in my experience is like they see the dollar signs, they want to be investors, but they don't put in the work and they don't put in the mindset work to understand.
Well, that's why would you agree with this? 95% of the people who attempt to be real estate investors fail because either they they don't invest in the education, or if they do, they don't take action.
Would I agree with that? Yes.
Percent succeed. What do I define as success? You're making six figures as an investor and you're only working another job because you want to. You don't have to. Your real estate investing business is supporting you. Now, I've interviewed people that are working jobs like you are, but they're doing it as passion projects. I had, like you're always going to do your internet marketing.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of interesting people over the 3 years I've been doing this on this podcast, but this one gal, it was last year sometime, she trains dolphins
Wow.
for a living.
That's pretty cool.
And she was really busy, and her husband and her family and the kids were growing up learning about investing and stuff. And she was at a point where there was like a tipping point, like at some point something's got to give, because they were self-managing and everything. And but she didn't want to let go of that job. And I'm like, I can see why. I wouldn't.
Hmm.
I mean, what a cool job to be training dolphins.
Absolutely. And how many people would pay for that opportunity? Like they
Right,
would pay to get to do that for a day, right?
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it at least gives you choices, when I'm in an invest her group here in Asheville. And last month, yeah, this month I didn't go. Last month, they bought about 4 cash flow quadrant games.
Nice.
And we, went around, we broke up into a
Hmm.
few groups and played cash flow quadrant. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's the most expensive board game you'll ever buy for $249.
Jeez,
But
yeah.
it's based on Robert Kiyosaki's book, The Cash Flow Quadrant. Now, a lot of people get into real estate investing reading his Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but the book
Yeah.
you really want to read, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, is just about getting you introduced to a mindset like Think and Grow Rich or
Hmm.
E-Myth. They're all books getting you to think differently, think like an entrepreneur to build wealth. But Cash Flow Quadrant is like mapping it out. Look, if you're a W-2 employee or you're a self-employed person, you're on the left side of the quadrant. You're
Hmm.
trading time for dollars. You're never going to build wealth that way. It's getting over on the right side of the quadrant of being a business owner where other people are doing the work for you, or being an investor, whether it's stocks, bonds, Bitcoin, real estate. And what's great about the real estate investment is it fills both those quadrants. And so there's a game, and the whole point of the game is getting out of the rat race, which is this one little circle that you keep going around, collecting your paycheck and getting
Hmm.
hit with unexpected things. And you're getting to a point where the whole point of the game is building up your passive income until it covers all your expenses. And then you get on the outside track. You're out of that rat race. All the little pieces are different colored rats. And it's a fun game because it's like an advanced game of Monopoly.
Hmm.
And so I just wanted to do a little sidebar, because ultimately that's why people get into real estate investing. But what they don't realize is if you don't get educated and you don't take action, it's a high risk game, and you could lose a lot, and or you just never accomplish anything. And it doesn't mean like I had a good friend that she and I would talk about if we ever won a lottery or we got rich really fast and we had lots of money, what would we do? And ultimately, after the house is paid off, the car, the things, and you got your woo-woos, um, it's like, what would be the altruistic, the philanthropic thing? And for her, it was human trafficking. That was be her thing. For
Hmm.
me, it was the environment and building intentional regenerative communities, and it was animal rescue. Those were my things. And um, what was interesting as we progressed in that conversation, I even checked in with her recently. Hi, Dr. Deb Barnett. Yes, I'm talking about you, honey. She's this very gifted transpersonal psychologist, and she works with a lot of people who have anxiety and depression. And she's also a certified feminine empowerment coach. And she wants to move more out of the therapy business into this. But really, what's interesting, and I know her human design because I study that, is that she at 50 feels like she's just starting to get in her game.
Hmm.
And she's someone who already knows she's never going to retire. Her mom's in her 70s and still going strong and not even going to slow down. There's a different paradigm now than I'm on the tail end of the baby boomer generation. You're a millennial. And then there's Generation Z's and Alphas and all that coming out. And um, that was the generation, the first part of my generation, and the people before that I don't even know what that generation was called. It was about you work a job 30 hours, and then you retire. And I remember many years ago thinking it was one of those Kodak moments where I was living in Tucson, standing in my kitchen facing the stove. It was really weird that I remember this thinking, and it was like kind of like this aha relief, like, you know what, you're not going to retire really. I mean, you want the choice that if you don't have to work, you don't, if you don't want to work, you don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
But when I look at having been an expat in Mexico for a few years and seeing how a lot of people retire, and seeing how my mom has barely been able to retire, living on the Social Security, doing enough just to get by, blah, blah, blah. But what they're doing with their lives, in expats in Mexico and other countries, are usually raising money, doing fundraisers, volunteering, helping. So that's philanthropic. But in the end, it's eat, drink, be merry, watch a TV, go recreate. And that's why I think a lot of people, especially men, die on average within 7 or 8 years of retirement, because there's something about the challenge and the struggle of getting up and having a reason to get up, having a reason to live. Because I see my mom has declined quite a bit, and has recently been diagnosed with dementia because she doesn't really have a reason for living. And it's heartbreaking. And I thought, you know what? I'm one of those people that I have to have something that challenges me, something that makes me get up. You're the same way. You're a creative person, so am I. And what that's going to be for me, and in my human design, my purpose in life is to build community. And I think where my investing journey is going to go is, once I'm where I want to be in passive income for fun for the rest of my life, it's going to be small, intentional tiny house communities, converting crappy RV parks and mobile home parks into tiny house villages. But it's also regenerative, intentional communities. I hate the sound of commune or anything like that because it's a little too dippy for me, and that's not how I want it to be. It's going to be economically self-sustaining too, because where we're going in the world, we need that. We need more regenerative, intentional, sustainable design, because the planet's just not going to be able to support, and I think the population explosion is starting to decline and go the other direction. So, what do you see? And we're kind of getting to the end. What do you see yourself doing in a, post-retirement age, or as because you've already said this, like slowing down, my priorities have changed, my energy. It's like, what could you see yourself doing for the rest of your life? Not because you have to, just because you want to. What do you see yourself doing?
Yeah,
Right,
I
I'm off my
appreciate all that.
soapbox. I went on a little rant there.
That was good. I liked it. I enjoyed it. It was a great rant. And I agree, and I thought about that. I think about that kind of stuff a lot, I guess. And so yeah, I'll never stop because I do, and that's been one of the benefits of having, the career path I've had over all these years, is like I got to do everything I wanted to do, basically. I got to tour as a musician, as a musical artist, and teach music for many years, and impact all those kids, and that was really important to me. And then I got to a point where it's like, all right, I feel fulfilled there, and now I want to do this, and now I want to do that. And so it's like, what do I want to do when I grow up? And that was it's like I still sometimes. So to answer your question specifically, the big one of the big missions I've been on since, and I think I've told you this probably over the years, but I'll just kind of reiterate it because it's a big one. It is my life mission,
Move over so we can see
my life
all
mission,
the
my
way.
life purpose.
Keep going. There you go.
Find your flow.
Find your flow.
That's it. That's it. That's the big mission, that in 1999 New Year's Eve, for those, and I have to correct you. I'm not a millennial. I'm a Gen X. Big difference.
Oh, you are a Gen
I'm a
X.
Gen
Okay.
X. Yes.
Gen X came first.
Yes, yeah.
And millennials.
The
That's right.
millennials,
There
yes.
was baby boomers, Gen X, then millennials.
And I think it was
You
the
know what the
silent generation
generation
before that.
before baby boomers, what were they called?
The silent generation, I believe.
The silent
I
generation?
believe so. Yeah, just going off the top of my head. I looked it up once because my mother-in-law's generation, yeah, they were the kind of like in between the folks that were, and now I gotta look it up. I know you're looking it up, but yeah, just I might be wrong, but I let's see.
I'm pulling it up.
Okay.
The silent generation. The greatest generation.
The greatest
Well,
generation. Yeah,
well, the silent generation, the greatest generation born 1901 to 1924, the silent generation. So the greatest generation was before that.
before them. Okay, yeah.
1901 to 1924, the silent generation born 1925 to 1945. Oh, my mom and dad were born in the silent generation. And then I was in the tail end of the baby boomer generation. And then you were in Gen X. Let's see, Gen X. Gen X between baby boomers and millennials. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So yeah,
Wow.
my
You
parents were
just learned something
boomers.
today.
Cool. Yeah, so for those old enough to remember, Y2K was a big scare back in the day, you know, and
Yeah.
went out to the desert with my friends just to avoid any possible meltdown of society, and had an out of body experience, you know, got either abducted by aliens or had I floated out of my body. We were out there doing all sorts of things kids do back in those days, and I had this download of information that said I was dancing. I was doing like, you know, I was big into the electronic music scene, and I was dancing, and everything was flowing like flawlessly. Even if I tripped, it turned into a spin or turned into the next move. And so when I start floating above my body, I heard this voice and it said, you will write a book about this experience of flow, and you will learn to spread this experience of flow into all areas of your life. And I was like, wow. And then I floated back down into my body, and I told my friends, and they're like, dude, you're crazy. You took too much. Slow
Weirdo.
down, you
Yeah.
know? And so, but basically I set off on this mission to, to, to fulfill that, right? It's like, man, that was amazing and life altering. It was a true epiphany for me. And I started journaling about every time anything like kind of caught my attention. Coincidences became a big thing, serendipity and synchronizations, and then like intention and goal setting, and how things start just like magically, like there wasn't necessarily a direct correlation, but these things would kind of magically happen if I set my intentions right, and how to get into flow states, and how to, and that's where the mind flow, body flow, spirit flow, social flow, cash flow was like, oh, these are the 5 areas of my life that if I can figure out how to flow in each of these, you know, I can use these same kind of structures. And so I've done that. And so it's, again, it's one of those, for me, it's one of those things. It's like, okay, well, I wrote the book. I became a #1 best-selling author. Then I did it again. And then I helped some more, then I helped some other people become #1 published authors. And so now I'm at this point where it's like, well, okay, I've done it all for me. I've been a professional musician. I've been a professional DJ. I've been a music teacher. I've been all these things I wanted to do. What do I want to do now? What do I want to do when I'm retired? I want to help you do it. I want to help everybody else do it. And that's the, like you said, the philanthropy
Yeah,
and
paying it forward, and
paying it
you're not doing it because
forward.
you have to, you're doing it because you want to, and it's fulfilling
Mm-hmm.
to help other people.
Absolutely. And so what my evening project these days is the Get Published Challenge. And I basically figured out like I can do it and I can help people for free who want to become published authors in my book series, and just publish them for free if they want to have like name credits, and you know they can pay the minimal fee to, you know, for me to be able to list them in Amazon as a published author. And then, you know, from there it's like I've got this TV network I'm building out on Roku and Amazon, and you know, and that's basically it. Give people like you were saying about the intentional communities. For me, that's really important too. And animals, you know, been vegetarian for many years, love animals, and you know, want good things. And so it's like I want to produce and promote ideas from other people that are positive and intentional, and be able to use all my marketing and my platform, findyourflow.com, and the podcast and the TV series and the, you know, the whole network of things to be able to help other people share their positive ideas and resonate that out to the world.
So when we're done, go on my timeline, find this recording, and
Okay.
drop the links to anything you want people to have access to, that agent investor course, your Find the Flow website, so that they can, connect with you if someone watching this is interested.
Okay, thank you. Will
Okay,
do.
so this has just been an awesome show, and
Thank you.
thanks everybody for the tolerance on the technology, because and Facebook. And we'll figure out how we're going to deal with that next week. So if you were to jump up on a rooftop and you had a captive audience that was hanging on your every word, and they were actually going to listen and hear and heed what great pearls of wisdom and advice you had for them, what would that advice be?
Find your flow. Find your flow. It's not always mine. It's not always Ray T Stars, although I'm a huge fan. We all have our own way of doing it. And I think that's what makes us as a species awesome. We all have
Yeah,
our
I
own
love
stuff.
that, because in 2027, there's going to be a shift. And, as human beings evolve, we evolve into different evolutions of Homo sapien, from Cro-Magnon, Neanderthal, all that. And, I studied a science called human design, and the founder of that science said that in 2027 is going to be another one of those, like the indigo children. It's going to be another one of those where there's a dramatic shift in the new generation of children being born at that time are going to be a different kind of human being, a rave human being. And what's going to happen is we're going to start evolving, and humanity certainly needs to evolve in its consciousness. We've evolved in technology, but we need to evolve in consciousness and learn as a species how to live in harmony like the rest of the species on the planet do. And that age is coming, and what we're going to start to see happen is the crumbling of archaic, authoritarian, dominating, too big to fail financial, governmental, corporate systems, because we're going to be, and we already are, and a lot of you probably already feel this, moving more into an era of individual empowerment. And that's why intentional, regenerative communities and stuff, where people can be living in alignment with their values and living in alignment with like-minded people at a very elevated way that honors the environment, themselves, each other. And so I don't think I'll be alive long enough to see how it could transform the world, but I'm certainly going to be a cog in the wheel of being part of ushering that in to the world. I stumbled on a series, I don't know if anybody else, called Extrapolations. And it is an eye-opening series. And I can't remember which streaming station it's on. I think it might be Prime, or it might be, Paramount or Showtime or something like that. Just kind of look up Extrapolations, and it's disturbingly enlightening. And what they're doing is projecting out 2030. Each episode is 2030. And there's fires everywhere, and you can't be out in the sun because the ozone is so damaged that your skin will just burn right off you. And there's, each scenario is how people are dealing with it. There was one episode about all the oceans no longer had any of the large, whales and dolphins, and they were hoping to find the last living whale, kind of thing. And even then, with the world literally dissolving right in front of everyone, they were showing that there were still greedy, power-hungry people trying to capitalize on that. And there was this one man that ended up getting squashed to death by a huge angry walrus because he was going to go kill a baby walrus or something, being an asshole. But it's a disturbing but enlightening and fascinating series. And it's not a docu-series because it's not based on reality, but it's a disturbing prediction. I remember when Al Gore was going around and everybody thought, whoa, this guy's ahead of his time, or whoa, he's a whack job. But how many messengers is it going to take? I'm getting up on a soapbox that has nothing to do with my podcast. And it's a social issue for me, not a political one. But humanity, just as a historically, we have to be beat over the head before we get something. It's got to be a crisis or an emergency. And that's just too bad. It's just too bad, that can't we all find a way to live in harmony with our planet, with each other? And people might be hearing me and think, oh, she's idealistic or she's not in touch with reality, but there are already solutions for everything that are already existing on the planet. If we would all just kind of collaborate and work together. And part of what's going to break down is that male dominating, authoritarian, competitive, kill each other, kind of stuff that's going on. And well, let's look at where all the solutions are and let's all collaborate and let's all win instead of let's all kill each other so one wins. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox. It has nothing to do with my podcast. So I want to thank you, Winston, you'll have to probably edit my little rants out of this one. But I want to thank you. I got more of your story on this and I really love it. And it was a unique story, especially for this podcast. And I appreciate everybody else who's here. And let's see. Wow, so much talent. Nanette. Yes, on the links. Winston, on links, please. Yeah, there are people that want your links. So
cool.
Thank you so much, Winston. It's just always such a delight to reconnect with you. You're just such a lovely human being. And I love, there's always something to look forward to. You're always creating and innovating and you're just such a bright light in the world. And so I want to thank you for being here.
Thank you, Rand. I appreciate that. Thanks for having me. And yeah, likewise, definitely get to reconnect and you're always so much fun and awesome and positive and doing cool things. So thank you.
Yeah, and everybody, thanks for following us over from the group because of this live stream issue with Facebook. And I am refraining from, saying what I really want to say about that. And I just want to remind everybody, go out there and take action. Stop making excuses. Go get results in your life, whether it's buying a piece of property or doing something you love, finding your flow, or just stop waiting around. Life is short. It's precious. Get out there. And today is all you've got. And today is the most powerful day you are living in your life because it simultaneously creates your past and your future. So today's what counts. Live it fully. All right, everybody. Love you. Thank you. See you all next week. Bye.